Hi guys, welcome to my show. Sorry, I was staring at my TV for a minute. I hope you like all the changes that are happening. You noticed last night with the guys' shows, we had a few technical difficulties, but now that Joel's on the producer side, we probably won't have any problems, so hopefully it's all good. So tonight I wanted to talk about some positive stories. I know my show can be kind of draining because we get, wow, that's really close. We get pretty deep into some of the negative things going on with our kids and all the stuff that we're dealing with on that aspect. So I thought tonight would be fun to talk about some positive, uplifting things, and maybe share a little bit about our story. So the first story I wanted to talk about was I came across this post from this single dad, and I found it a really interesting story because he was a single dad not by choice, and seeing how he stepped up in a situation that was really, I guess, kind of overwhelming and scary. It was really inspiring to see. So this guy, his name is Richard Johnson, and long story short, he and his girlfriend had a baby daughter, and within a month, his girlfriend ran away. She just left them high and dry. It was a scary time for him because he came from a family where everyone was either divorced or single parent. His dad was not a part of his life, so when his daughter Persephone was born and her mother took off, he was scared, overwhelmed, but he knew he wanted to do better. He wanted to break that cycle of abandonment and do whatever it took to be a good father to this little girl. So he talks about how he had a really hard time, but then there was this group of single dads and single parents on Facebook that actually really helped him through. So he wrote this letter, and this is how I came across the story. So here's his letter that went viral. This is the letter that he wrote to this group that helped him through. And I'm going to read it word for word and then talk more about it. So he goes, "My name is Richard Johnson, and I'm a single father to a beautiful little girl named Persephone. Her mother left about a month after she was born. We still don't know exactly why, but we suspect postpartum depression played a part. In the first few weeks of it being just her and me, I stumbled upon your page by accident." And he's talking about the support group page that on Facebook that he wrote this letter to. "I was so nervous and scared about being a father in general, but now I was a single father and had to fulfill 2 roles. I wasn't sure I could do it. I had read every new parent book I could find and clocked in over 1,000 hours in YouTube videos, from everything to braiding hair and painting nails to theories on how to deal with common parental issues. I then started to watch your page more closely and saw that there were other fathers out there who were in similar predicaments as me. The page started to turn into a major confidence booster and really helped me through all this. I always look forward to photo submissions and reading the stories of some of the awesome dads out there in this community. You truly helped my daughter and me through a very difficult time. We're both very happy now and continue to grow together every day. She's now 10 months, and I now get asked by my friends for parenting advice constantly. We've come a long way, my daughter and me, and we definitely owe a part of that to this page and the people within it. So from both of us, we really thank you. Sincerely, Persephone and Richard Johnson." And I have a couple pictures of this dad and his daughter that Joel can pop up there. I found this really inspiring to see a dad step up instead of running away. That would have been the easy thing. The mom bolted. He could have been like, you know what, I'm not ready for this. And he could have decided to bolt right along with her and give this baby up for adoption or whatever. He could have taken so many easy roads out, but he decided she's so cute. He decided to keep her and to focus on being better than his parents and being better for her, and I think that's really inspiring. So there's a lesson in this, I think, that when we're going through these hard times, especially in our world today with everything our kids are having to focus on, there's a lot of easy outs, but there's something to be said for taking the hard road. I have another story to tell you guys, and we do have a picture of this one too. I'm sure you've heard of this because there was a movie about this lady. Her name is Bethany Hamilton, and I'm going to read the story about her. And the movie that was made about her is called Soul Surfer. So her story is pretty cool. It's sad, but cool at the same time. On October 31st, 2003, Hamilton, age 13 at the time, went for a morning surf along Tunnels Beach, Kauai, with her best friend, Elena Blanchard, Elena's father and brother. While she was lying on her surfboard, belly down, and talking with Elena, a 14-foot-long tiger shark attacked her. The shark swiftly bit off her left arm, which she had been dangling in the water just below the shoulder. The Blanchards helped paddle her back to shore. Then Elena's father fashioned a tourniquet out of a rash guard and wrapped it up to the stump of her arm. She was rushed to Wilcox Memorial Hospital. By the time she arrived there, she had lost over 60% of her blood and was in hypervolemic shock. A doctor living in a hotel nearby raced to the rescue. Her father, who was scheduled to have knee surgery that same morning, was already there, but she took his place in the operating room. During subsequent media interviews, she confirmed that she felt normal when she was bitten and did not feel much pain from the bite, but felt numb on the way to the hospital. When the news broke of the shark attack, a family of fishermen led by Ralph Young presented investigators photos of a 14-foot-long tiger shark they had caught and killed about 1 mile from the attack site. It had surfboard debris in its mouth. When measurements of its mouth were compared with those of Hamilton's broken board, it matched. In late 2004, the police officially confirmed that it was the same one that had attacked her. Despite the trauma of the incident, Hamilton was determined to return to surfing. 1 month after the attack, she returned to her board. Hi guys, I see your comments on there. Initially, she adopted a custom-made board that was longer and slightly thicker than standard and had a handle for her right arm, making it easier to paddle, and she learned to kick more to make up for the loss of her left arm. After teaching herself to surf with one arm, she returned to surfing on November 26, 2003, just 26 days after the attack, and entered her first major competition. On January 10, 2004, she now used standard competitive performance shortboards. The shark-bitten surfboard that Hamilton was riding during the attack, as well as the bathing suit she was wearing at the time, a gift from the ocean photographer Aaron Chang, are on display at the California Surf Museum in Oceanside, California. Sarah, I'm glad to see you too, Adam. And Sarah said, I believe I watched this movie about this girl. Yeah, it's called Soul Surfer, the movie. And I found this really inspiring. She could have taken this injury and gone down a path of self-destruction or self-loathing, and we have a picture of her on her surfboard, by the way, if Joel wants to pop it up there. She could have taken a path of... I disappeared. Oh, that's the daddy. There's the other one. She could have taken that path of, self-wallowing and self-pity and not doing much and just kind of living that way. But instead, she decided to get back on the horse, so to speak, and to fight this and come out stronger. And she's won competitions since. So I think that's pretty cool to see somebody come out of a huge event, traumatic event like that, and come out stronger. It's really inspiring to me. Yeah. Hi there, guys. I see your comments. Thank you for commenting. So let's go to our first sponsor, and then I'll tell you some more stories, because I got a bunch of them on here, and I think they're pretty cool. Our first sponsor is Whitney Signs. They are awesome. They do all kinds of work around the area. They're actually at the State Fair this next few days while the State Fair is going on in Salem, making signs there and doing a great job. They're local heroes in my eyes. We love them. Check out their video. Oh, we're back. And Carissa says we'll have to watch later. Jeremy and I are out to dinner. Just wanted you to know we will catch up later. Oh, awesome. Thank you. That's really inspiring. Can people be sponsors? Yes, they can. Sarah, reach out to us later and we'll tell you how. Anyway, so there's another story I came across, and this one is important to me for quite a few reasons, and it speaks a lot to me, and I'll tell you guys later. I'm going to talk about my story and our story of becoming a family and why we're at where we are today, but this story in particular, I'll read a little bit about it and we'll talk about it. So this lady, it starts off with her talking about a phone conversation that she had with somebody she went to high school with. So I'm going to read her story about this, and it might sound a little strange. It starts with a phone call conversation. So, hello, may I speak to Tanya May? Tanya May is the lady that wrote the story. I didn't recognize the voice on the phone. Must be a telemarketer. They even used my maiden name, and I'd been married for more than a decade. Tanya, this is Jen Hass from Highland High School. I thought for a second, then remembered Jen and I had been members of our school's choir more than 20 years earlier. Jen went on, I don't know if you remember me, but recently I was diagnosed with ALS. I have 3 to 5 years to live. I'm reaching out to people I need to make things right with before I die. I feel terrible about what happened between us. And before I could respond, Jen hurried through the memory of a time when she had called me a racial slur at school. She apologized profusely. I hope you can forgive me. I was momentarily speechless. I appreciate you telling me and apologizing, Jen, I said, but honestly, I have no memory of that incident. Of course I forgive you, and I hope that you'll forgive yourself. I didn't know much about the degenerative neurological disease ALS, but I knew enough to feel nothing but compassion for this woman struggling to come to terms with a grim diagnosis. I couldn't simply say a polite goodbye and hang up. So she goes on to say how instead of hanging up and just being done at that moment, she talks to her about Jesus, asks her if she knows Jesus, and she tells her that God wants more for her and that he can heal her, and they form a friendship. This friendship goes on, and she talks about how her friend Jen, now that they're close friends, and I do see her comments, and I will try to read them as soon as I'm done telling the story. She talks about how their friendship became this beautiful thing, but she was having a hard time, Tanya was having a hard time, because she knows that she told Jen in the beginning of their friendship that God could heal her. And she's noticing that ALS is progressing and she's getting worse. And over time, over the years, she comes to a point where she's in a chair and she can't speak on her own, and she's having to use a computer to talk for her. And she starts a blog, this Jen, the one with ALS, starts a blog that she uses her computer to talk about. And Tanya's still struggling with this. I hope she doesn't lose faith because she hasn't been healed yet, because she's seeing it very one-dimensionally. And then Jen writes this article on her blog about how let me see, I have it written here. So she writes this article on her blog, and she talks about how her friendship with Tanya had touched her so much, and how when she reached out to Tanya, instead of just letting it go, she formed this friendship with her and brought her back to her faith in Jesus and her faith, and she firmly believes that she is better off now. Her spirit is better off. Her spirit was healed. And then Tanya was able to realize that maybe it's not so simple. Maybe she didn't need to be healed physically, but she needed to be healed spiritually. And so it's a really inspiring story, and this means a lot to me because, I have a chronic illness, and I've been told by many that if my faith was big enough, I would be physically healed. And I don't necessarily, I have a very strong opinion on that. I do believe that God heals people physically. I do believe that, and I have been healed before. But I also believe that it's in his timing and not mine. And I know that he uses everything for good. So I see this story very similar to mine, as in her friend was concerned, whoa, our camera's going nuts over here. She was concerned that her friend wasn't physically healed, but she realized later that she was healed. Her spirit is what God needed to touch. And so that was really cool. And to see somebody going through something that traumatic, that serious, and that devastating, and still have that strength and that faith and that, I'm sorry you guys, our cameras are being weird, I don't know what's going on. To see someone have that amount of positivity and strength just reminded me that we need to focus on the good. There's some comments here. Hi, sweetie, hi. Joel said people can sponsor also by purchasing our merchandise. Off the back was Brothers website, yep. Hi, Brandy, hi, how are you? Someone said, girl, I'm proud of you. Thank you, that's really sweet. Yeah, I thought that was it's interesting, and I tell my kiddo this, and my goddaughter this, and friends and family this. You can feel like your problems are so big in the moment, and it can feel like the world is going against you, or everybody's against you in that moment. But if you can take yourself outside of your problems and your struggles, you can see that there are people out there that have a lot more that they're working through, and that everybody's got something hard that they're dealing with. And being positive and keeping your faith is very important and can get you through a lot more than sitting and stewing in your own negativity. Joel said sorry, didn't mean to mess up the cameras, my bad. And then Lauren said you are the bravest woman I've ever seen till now. Oh, thank you, that's sweet. So there's some more stories. Now there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. These are short little ones, and they're like experiences, close to death experiences. And then we'll go, after we talk about those, we'll go to another sponsor. Yeah, Mayday, for sure. So this one is Don Piper's. He was a minister. He was driving home to Alvin, Texas from a convention when he got into a terrible head-on collision with an 18-wheeler. First responders at the scene could not find a pulse, and he was declared dead. But upon impact, Don had been transported somewhere else. He'd been driving 1 minute, and the next he was standing in heaven. Joy pulsed through him as he became aware of a large group of his loved ones who had passed on before him, standing in front of an ornate gate. He walked towards the gate. He had no idea what lay ahead, and he felt that with each step, heaven would grow more wondrous. He goes on to say how he had this awesome experience, and then he came back because God told him that I still have things for you to do on this earth. And but he went on to tell his story and write a book about it, and I don't have it written down what the book is called, but I believe it's 90 Minutes in Heaven, if I'm correct, and there was a movie about that too. But that was really cool. A really good story. My husband actually, and hopefully he doesn't get mad at me for this, but when he was a teenager, he got into a really bad accident, which is why I wanted to talk about this story, because it reminded me of that. Now, I didn't know him at the time, but as he tells a story about how he got into this really terrible accident, and all of a sudden he's outside directing traffic. And when you look at the car and you look at the damage that this accident had caused to his car, he shouldn't have been able to get out, let alone be out there directing traffic. So it's pretty much a miracle that he survived that, and it's a miracle this guy survived. It's pretty inspiring to see these stories, and it's nice to think of the positive for once. I know I kind of bring you guys down a little bit each week, so I'm hoping that you can forgive me with this episode because we're being positive for a little bit. Anyway, so there's another story here, and it's about a shelter dog. And since I'm an animal person, I thought I'd talk about it because I love animals, and I think that they can do. I think they have a lot more to them than we give them credit for. They know a lot more. They're aware of a lot more than we give them credit for. Let's put it that way. So this is
tarnation.
Joel's having fun with the noises, apparently. So this story is how a shelter dog became a life-saving hero. My new dog, Honey, trotted after me as I walked to my Toyota 4Runner that fall morning. I'd had her only a couple weeks, but we'd become nearly inseparable. I'd gone through my heart surgery a few months back. I figured taking care of a dog would keep me active. Besides, my wife's job took her out of town a lot, and I could use the company. So I went to the local animal rescue center. The little Cocker Spaniel quivering in a cage caught my eye right away. I leaned over to get a closer look. She had scared eyes. I could tell she longed to be picked up and held. I went to the shelter worker. She just came in, the woman told me. Her name is Honey, 5 months old. The owner said she couldn't take care of her anymore. The worker opened Honey's cage and let me pick her up. I stroked her silky fur and cooed. She stopped shaking. The two of us went to the side yard where I picked up a ball and tossed it. I sat down to watch Honey race after the ball, ears flopping all the way. She came flying back toward me, ball in mouth, and leaped right in my lap. That was it. I filled out the paperwork and took Honey home. She followed me like a shadow the first day. She loved to snuggle on my lap while we watched logs crackle in the fireplace. The only thing better was when she kept my feet warm by sleeping at the foot of the bed. That October morning last year, I decided to take Honey with me while I ran some errands. My wife was away for a few days, and I hated the thought of leaving Honey alone. I grabbed my keys and made sure I had my nitroglycerin tablets. I opened the Forerunner's door. "Come on, Honey, let's go." She jumped in the cab and settled down on the passenger seat. I got behind the wheel and started the SUV. It's always tricky turning around. We live in a remote area up the hills outside San Rafael, California, surrounded by towering redwoods. I twisted around and backed up slowly. Just then, a flash of sunlight blinded me. I put my head up to shield my eyes. I felt a jolt as the left rear section of the SUV dropped. Oh no, the edge. The car slipped in the soft soil and rolled. I hadn't put on my seatbelt yet. I was waiting to finish turning around. Now I tumbled inside the SUV as it somersaulted down the ravine. Branches snapped. The Forerunner rolled faster. 4, 5, 6 rolls until I heard a horrible crunch. A giant limb plunged through the roof, hit my leg and chest, then embedded in the dash. We landed upside down. I felt a searing pain in my chest. I was pinned. I looked over to find Honey. She was still in the passenger seat, and thank God she was okay. Shook up, though. "Sorry, girl," I gasped. I tried to see if I could unpin myself from behind the wheel. I cried out in pain. It was no use. Something was wrong with my leg. I grabbed my cell phone and dialed 911. Please, God, let the call go through. The phone beat twice, just as I feared. I couldn't get a signal at the bottom of this ravine. Now what? I wonder what he's going to do. I know I have the rest of the story here, but man, that's scary. I figured we were at least 50 feet down. Robin, my closest neighbor, lived a quarter of a mile uphill from me and had her own driveway. There was no reason she or anyone else would drive up to my house. And even if someone did, they wouldn't see the wreck. My chest hammered. Calm down, I told myself. I had stents in my heart after all. I couldn't afford to panic. I groped in my shirt pocket and pulled out the nitroglycerin tablets. I took one out, I slipped it under my tongue, and I took a deep breath. My heartbeat slowed, but I still had pain in my chest. Must have busted some ribs. Honey whimpered. At least I could get her out of there. There was a hole in the driver's side rear window. It was small, but just maybe. "Come on, girl," I said. Painfully, I reached over and picked her up. I gently put her head through the hole, careful not to get her too close to a jagged edge. I got her fanny through and gave her a pat. "Go home, baby." She jumped to the ground and raced up the side of the ravine. My heart pounded like a jackhammer, so I took another pill. Maybe the horn. I tried, but couldn't reach around the tree limb. I shouted, but knew that wouldn't make any difference. No one would hear. I sat there for hours. My ribs throbbed, but now I knew for sure I had busted some. The pain was so bad, and I couldn't feel anything in my left leg. If I ever got out of this mess, I'd probably lose it. I'd be one-legged guy with a bum heart. And a Cocker Spaniel, Honey. Had she made it up to the ravine safely? Had she found her way home? She hardly knew the area. What would happen to her? The last bit of light filtering through the leaves faded away. Now with the sunset, the air turned cold. I shivered. Maybe Honey will get help. Who was I kidding? Stuff like that only happened in the movies. What is it, Lassie? Is Jimmy in trouble? Honey was probably lost in the woods, and I had gotten her into this mess. I felt my heart start racing again. Help me stay calm, Lord. You've given me a good life, a great wife, a great little dog. Watch over them if it's my time. And if not, please help me out of this. So tired, my pulse was weakening. All I had to do was close my eyes and... Slam! I jolted awake at the noise. Was that the car door? Help! I shouted with all my strength. Help! A voice answered. Who needs help? It was Robin, my neighbor. It's me, Mike, I yelled back. Down here, call 911. It seemed only minutes later I heard the throb of helicopter blades overhead. The rescue crew landed and made their way down to me. It took them 45 minutes to cut me out of the SUV and get me up the ravine. We flew to the hospital in a helicopter. I got all sorts of tests, x-rays, IV. I had broken 5 ribs and there was internal bleeding and some serious muscle damage in my leg. It'll take a while to recover, an ER doctor told me, but you're going to be okay. What about Honey? I asked Robin. She's fine, Robin said before they wheeled me to my room. I wouldn't be going anywhere for a while, so the next day a friend brought Honey to me to the hospital. She got right up next to me on the bed and snuggled close. With her there, it was like my pain disappeared. It was the strangest thing Robin told me later. I got home from work, and Honey was waiting for me. She got all agitated and ran in circles, like she was trying to tell me something. She was frantic. Robin figured she'd bring Honey back to my house, and that's when she heard me yell. How did that little dog know what to do and where to go, and how it's beyond me? She'd never been over to Robin's house. And here's the kicker, maybe. One day not long ago, I was looking through her papers, which the shelter had sent to me. She had a different name originally. Can you guess what it is? Angel. But I already knew that. Pretty good story, huh? Like I said, dogs are so intuitive. We have an amazing English Bulldog, and she knows when we are in pain. If Joel's having a hard day, she will stick to his side. If I'm having a hard day, she's on my butt. And even if our little girl's having a hard time, she'll stick by her too. They're really intuitive. They know when something's up, and they know exactly how to make you feel better when you're down. So if you don't have a dog, and you think you're looking for a pet, a dog is a really good one. Some comments we got, it was so something. Yeah, we just rebuilt the entire system. I know it's a lie for inspiration, but I'm feeling sad. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't be sad. He really suffered a lot, but I'm glad he survived. Yeah, me too. And the positive part of this is that his if he didn't have that sweet little dog, and if she didn't run off and know instinctively what to do, he wouldn't be here. And so he's choosing to look at this as he has an angel of an animal who saved him, and I think that's pretty cool. That's the best story I've ever known. Oh, that's pretty cool, Lorraine. Okay, so we'll go to our next sponsor, and then I'm going to tell you our story, so stay tuned. Our next sponsor is Hitch and Post Pizza. They are awesome. Miss Valerie is incredible. She has awesome food. If you're in the area or close to the area, come check out Hitch and Post Pizza. Okay, we are back. Lauren said I also had a dog, but he's in heaven, and he was an angel to our family. Aww. Well, I'm sorry for your loss. Hold on to the good memories with your pets. I'm sorry for your loss, but sorry that sound threw me off a little bit. I've had some amazing dogs in my day. I grew up with English Bulldogs, which is funny because now we have an English Bulldog as well. And they always helped me through some seriously hard times, so it's pretty cool to have that. Okay, so I promised you guys to tell you my story, so here we go. It's I'm gonna start with me, and then we'll move into how I met Joel and all that stuff. If you don't know, if you haven't seen our other shows, Joel is one of the hosts of Backwood Brothers. He's also on the Ranger Game show. He's the bearded with the gray hair in front.
What in tarnation?
So anyways, that's my husband. But to start with me, I was a normal little girl. I had a mom and dad and an older brother. He's 3 years older than me. Growing up, and then sorry, threw me off like majorly. The girls did used to scream for my brother, but that's a different story. So anyways, I had an older brother, I had my mom and my dad, and we grew up in a Christian home, and kind of average every day. My dad was in the Army, so we traveled a lot. I was born in Hawaii because of that. And then when I was 5, we moved to Oklahoma. I really loved Oklahoma. That was one of my favorite places that I've lived, besides here in Oregon. Anyway, so about 7, 8 years old, I start having some serious, we thought it was growing pains. They're pretty strong. My mom immediately was on the case. She was trying to find out what was wrong with me. My grandfather also was working on it. He was a registered nurse during his career, so he had this big, huge book of like medical conditions that he was looking through, and he knew what it was before anybody else did. And he told my mom that. My dad, on the other hand, he didn't really pay much attention to it. He thought I was being a drama queen. We went to a lot of different doctors, and these doctors all kind of said the same thing. She's a dramatic little girl who's experiencing growing pains, and that's it. And until they started doing some blood work, they started seeing some things in the blood work that weren't right, and then they didn't really take it seriously. Until there was I was in ballet, and there was a recital that I had, and I was almost 9 years old at this point. I was 8 going on 9, and during this recital I had a big part in it, and I was on the stage, I was dancing, and then I collapsed. And it wasn't a collapse from fainting, it was a collapse of my body just stopped working. My legs just wouldn't, fail, ultimate. My legs just stopped working. And so they rushed me to the doctors to find out what caused it, because at first they thought it was a fainting thing. Anyways, long story short, that's when the doctors started taking me a lot more seriously and decided that maybe my mom wasn't crazy and maybe something was going on here. Took a little while, a bunch of testing, and they finally just found out that I had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis and also lupus. Lupus is an autoimmune disease that can be very dangerous. It affects everybody differently. For me, it's been a lot, very focused on my heart, my brain, and my joints. Luckily, I haven't had any major kidney stuff, but a lot of people with lupus do. Luckily, I haven't had any organ transplants. Hopefully, I never have to. But anyway, so I started my childhood with an illness that, at the time, they didn't think I'd make it past 5 years. So that's why that one story kind of resonated with me, because I spent a lot of my childhood and young adulthood waiting for death. And that's just because they didn't have a lot of information at the time. They didn't have the research they have now. It wasn't common for a child to be diagnosed with lupus. It's more common for women of childbearing age to be diagnosed with it. So still to this day, that's more common. So yeah, they put me on all kinds of meds, and I had to go through quite a hard childhood. I had lots of surgeries on my knees, or my left knee, to kind of keep it functioning. I've been told since I was 9 that I wouldn't be walking much longer, and I'm still walking, so I take that as a positive.
Oh yeah!
I spent my childhood the sick kid. I had a lot of friends. I grew up in a Christian household, and I never felt, it's hard to explain if you're a part of the Christian faith. I never felt welcome in church. I was a big part of church. I served in my youth group. I was convinced I was going to be a minister of some sort. And I really, but my heart was really with outreach and reaching out to people and talking to people that not necessarily knew that faith, and more like reaching out to the community and helping those that were hurting or in need. And for some reason, any church I was a part of really didn't care about that. They thought I was kind of weird for focusing on people outside of the church and not people inside the church. So I went on to, I wanted to be a doctor. I thought about that, so I went to a university, but the first semester of the university I left. There was too much indoctrination going on, and it just wasn't working for me. So then I went and got my degree and certificate in massage therapy, and I did that for a while, and I really enjoyed that, but then my body didn't let me go any further. It was too hard on my body. And age 19, okay, so age 19, I'm living in Vegas. We moved to Las Vegas when I was 12 because my parents got teaching jobs. They're both teachers. And age 19, I decided, you know what, I'm done here. I hated Vegas. I really did not like living there. It was too hot for me. I loved my family. I couldn't live in Vegas anymore. So I said, I'm going to move to Oregon.
Abandon ship!
At the time, I did have a boyfriend that had just moved to Oregon, but a totally different part of Oregon than I came to. He moved to Southern Oregon, and I came to Central Oregon. So at the time, I was a manager at a Starbucks, and I decided I'm gonna find myself a store. So I called and found a store in Central Oregon and Bend, Oregon that needed a manager, and I found an apartment and I moved out. It was really scary because I was doing it on my own, but I think it's the best decision I ever made because that's where I met Joel. So I'm in Bend and I'm working as a manager in the store. I'm enjoying it, I'm loving it. And I get this message from this guy, and this is back in MySpace days. I get this message from this boy named Joel, and he says, I'm new to the area. Do you think you could tell me what kind of things are fun to do in the area? Long story short,
Bring me my rum.
For some reason, I was really the kind of person that would play hard to get, but I didn't do that with Joel, at least in the beginning. Yeah, that's our first date. Aww. That was our first time hanging out right there. Look at that cute face. So I didn't play hard to get in the beginning. He told me, he gave me his number and I called him right away. And then we talked throughout the night, and then he came to my Starbucks the next day so that we could meet each other. And the rest is history. I mean, we went on a date. There was a little bit of time there that I made him wait and said I just wanted to be friends. But at the end of the day, we ended up falling for each other pretty quickly and got married. And I think from the time we met in May to the time we got married, it was 7 months. So it was really quick. And we were young. I was 21.
Walk the plank, mate.
When we got married, I was brand new 21 when I met him. And I was 21 when we got married. And everybody told us, you're too young. This is too fast. It's not going to work. Blah, blah, blah. But we knew. We prayed about it. We knew that it was right. That's not us. That's the single dad guy. There he is again. Sweet baby, though. Such a cute baby. I think that he's having trouble with the pictures right now. Like I did last night. There's us. You're so cute. Aw. Okay, yeah, this was after we had gotten married. And we were at the Oregon Science, what is it, OMSI, Oregon Museum of Science and Industry, is where we were, and that was us hanging out when he was on leave from his service. Man, we were babies. Look how young we were. So cool. Oh, we're not there yet. We're not at that part of the story. Anyway, so we got married. And we we got married, and then we moved to Vegas for a year or two. And Joel at the time was in the National Guard, and he got deployed with his troop that was there or his unit there in Las Vegas. And so the first couple of years of our marriage were really hard because I think we got married in 2007, and it was 2009 when he was deployed for a whole year and a half. This picture is us visiting after he came back, or in between. I think this was in between his training and when he went actually over to Afghanistan. I'm pretty sure, but I could be wrong. It's one of those times. So he went and he served overseas, and then I had a sweet, romantic, gooey, gushy husband come back quite a bit different. Still the wonderful man I love, but quite a bit different. If you know any veterans, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so
Target destroyed.
we went through that, and that was really difficult. I spent that time he was over there stressing out every second. He was over a year and a half because he was doing 2 tours back to back. And he ended up coming home maybe a week or 2 early because I had been put in the hospital. My lupus was acting up. My illness was really bad because I was so stressed, and stress is really bad for us. I was so worried about him. I was so stressed, and I probably wasn't doing all the things I should be doing to take care of myself because I was more concerned about him. And so they brought him home a week or 2 early because I was in the hospital, and they wanted to make sure he was all right and I was all right. So anyway, so we had that. He came home from overseas, and then we moved again, and we started trying to have our little girl. It took us a few years, and we ended up because with my illness, it's very common to miscarry. We miscarried 4 times, and then we finally got pregnant with this little cutie patootie. She's our miracle baby. That's Miss Riley right there, and that was the day she was born. Look at that face, so cute. She is our miracle child for sure. Look at that, she's so cute. That was about 6 months old. She's wearing the butterfly wings because we were doing a walk for lupus, and one of the signs of hope for lupus patients are butterflies, and purple is our color as well. So if you notice a lot of purple on my show, it's my favorite color, but it's also the color for lupus awareness. And that's our little baby girl, and she is the light of our lives. She is incredible. She's 9 now. She'll be 10 in November. Look at that cutie patootie. And she was bald. She was super bald until about 3 years old. I mean, it took forever for her to get some hair on that cute little head. She was a perfect little Gerber baby, I'll tell you what. And even to this day, if you cut her hair, it takes forever to grow. Howard said it's actually a wrong logic that if people marry at a young age, they're not going to make it. I agree with that. And he said, as a partner, you need to understand and love them as much as you can, and it needs to be done from both parties, and that doesn't need an age. Just needs an understanding that you both have a lot, I believe. Oh, thank you. Yeah, like I've said, Joel and I really, truly believe, for one thing, God is at the center of our marriage, and for another thing, there is no walking away. We made that deal a long time ago, and we continue to keep that. And marriage is hard. Love isn't just a feeling. Love is something you work on every day. It's something that you have to work towards, and you have to fight for. And if you're not willing to fight for it, then you shouldn't be in that kind of relationship. There's a little girl in me. She was like 4 here. Oh, thank you, Millie. Yeah, she's a 4-year-old at that point, cutie pie. She is my mini-me, that is true. She is my mini-me. She looked a lot like Daddy in the beginning, and now as she gets older, she looks more like me. That's us. A couple years ago on Easter. So she was like 7 there.
Bring me my rum.
So anyways, we had our little girl, and things were going great. We owned a business for a little bit, and then we came back to Oregon, and we started noticing that we were serving in our church, but we didn't feel like we were making a difference. And we came to the conclusion that God was putting it on both of our hearts to start our nonprofit, ECW, so we did. And we felt that it was necessary to have a nonprofit in town that served our community and loved our community and didn't have any strings attached. Just loving people and taking care of them and being there for them in every way we could, any way humanly possible. And we have a great group of volunteers that are with us, that help us do that and serve our community every day. It's pretty awesome to see a community come together to love one another despite all the differences we have and all the hardships we have. And we also, not only did we start our nonprofit, but we also, Joel started serving as a city councilman in our town. That's a silly picture of us on one of our many date nights. Howard says, I'm glad she looks like you now, but not like Joel. Me too. She's a girl, so I'm glad she looks like mom. We also had a pretty hard time here in Estacada in 2020, where we had this very crazy, scary forest fire, and our Clackamas County decided that they were going to give up and walk away and let it burn because of our governor has this crazy thought that small towns in Oregon aren't worth the fight. Luckily, we had a lot of regular citizens stand up and say, nope, we're not going to take that, and they fought the fire for us, and we kicked its butt. And our little nonprofit set up a relief center. There's our daughter at the beach. Our little nonprofit set up a relief center to serve our community and get them fed and clothed and resources, anything they needed. It was a really big effort, and we couldn't have done it without the whole community supporting us. That was pretty amazing. But that was on that moment that I realized that we made the right choice to leave our church body and start this nonprofit, because God knew that this fire was coming. He knew that they were going to need us. And so that was pretty amazing to see come together. So that's where we are now. We're 2 years after that fire. We're here, and we still have our nonprofit. Joel's still serving as a city councilman, and now we have our shows where we get to talk to you guys and put our opinions out there and try to help change the world in any way we can. The purpose of me telling our story is to talk about how I could have sat and said, you know what, I'm disabled, I have this illness, I'm just going to sit on my butt and let everybody else take care of me and feel sorry for myself. And I've never been that person. I've never been willing to just sit back and take it and accept what I've been told. And so we choose more for our life. We've chosen to help others, to take care of people, to serve other people. And I wouldn't change that for anything. And I've been able to meet some incredible people along the way. I've been able to be inspired by some incredible people along the way. And you are the company you keep. And I feel like when you're in a line of service, you meet people that are also in a line of service. And so we have some incredible friends and people in our life. And we wouldn't have any of that if I decided to sit on my butt and just live my life sad and feeling sorry for myself. And we wouldn't have that if Joel wasn't such a kick-ass guy. So I'm pretty proud of our little family, and I think our story is important to tell, to see how we got to where we are. You are a living inspiration for me, girl. Oh, thank you. Joel said they shouldn't give me access to the buttons, and love you, honey. I love you too. So we're going to go to our other sponsor, and then we'll finish up with another cool little story, and we'll end the night. So I hope that this has been more of a positive show tonight. I'm going to try to put in some positive shows every once in a while to keep us focused on the good. Our next sponsor is Fiverr. They are awesome. We've actually paid a lot of contractors to do a lot of things on Fiverr. So check it out.
Hi, we're Fiverr, a global marketplace connecting individuals and businesses with freelancers offering thousands of digital services. Graphic design, web development, video editing, e-commerce marketing. You name it, there's a professional freelancer ready to make it happen. Filter your search by the service needed, budget, timeline, and boom! Fiverr provides a list of talented freelancers to meet your specific needs. Always know what you'll pay up front. No hourly rates, just project-based pricing. And because payment isn't released until you approve the work, you can rest assured that you'll be satisfied with the quality and get exactly what you want. Our support team is always available to answer questions or offer assistance when you need it. With the whole world of freelance talent at your fingertips, what might you achieve? Join today and find out. Fiverr. It starts here.
Oh, I'm back. Sorry, I was reading some of my other stories. Okay. Okay, so I have a couple other cute little stories of people that came close to death. I'm going to talk about those, and then I'll end it up in a little bit. So Bubba Bay, he had a miraculous encounter, and so while on a walk one night, Jim, or Bubba Bay, slipped and fell 14 feet into a concrete culvert. His skull was cracked and his shoulder blade was cracked. 11 ribs were cracked and 10 vertebrae were broken. He was in absolutely excruciating pain until a blinding light appeared, illuminating his surroundings and washing away his suffering. From the light walked a man with a kind, weathered face and a long beard. He held his arms to him and comforted him. And the story goes on to say that it's another one of those ones where he talks about his experience of seeing loved ones lost and giving this overwhelming, comforting feeling, and then being told that it's time to go back and tell his story and do something big. And he did. He went back and he wrote his story and changed a bunch of lives with his story. And that's really, really cool. Somebody said Fiverr is the best. Yep. And that button access. LOL. Yeah, he needs to shut up on that. No, just kidding. I love the little buttons. They're cute. Another one is Lori Lambert. She had a conversation with angels, and her story goes, Navy technician Lori Lambert was on a team-building experience kayaking through the rapids when she capsized and was flung into the freezing river. She gasped and her lungs were filled with water. She was being pushed down and couldn't get to the surface. She was drowning. Oh God, please help me, she thought. Then she was zooming through a tunnel of pure white. She came out on the other side in an otherworldly room. 3 beings stood before her, made of giant shimmering crystal. They radiated pure love. Lori's fears subsided, and she felt calm and comforted in their presence. The middle being said, before you go back, we are going to show you some things, and opened a book of moving images. And so this book, they opened up moving images kind of her life that's gone past and things that are to come. And then she was saved. Somebody had pulled her from the river and she was saved. And so that's pretty cool too. I enjoy hearing these stories of people that have these near-death experiences. It's really cool to hear what they see, and it gives me hope that there is a really awesome life waiting for us after this one. So I have one more, and then so this is Mike Olson during a double lung transplant. Mike Olson's surgeon released a clamp too soon, causing him to bleed out. He recounts being aware that he was on the operating table with medical personnel scrambling to save him, and then being transported in a sudden burst of energy to a place of blinding white light that surrounded him and stretched on endlessly. It filled him with peace and joy. Then he saw a figure walking towards him. It was Jesus. And then he goes on to say, pretty similar, that he had this joy and this peace, and then he was told to go home, and there was something happened with his family on this one that he was really needed to help them through a hard time, and he realized why he came back. So these stories to me are important. I think they're fun to read, but they're also important to give us perspective on life. There's a lot of negativity in our world. There's a lot of things going on that are distracting us or separating us or putting ourselves in these little boxes to fight and divide us even further. And I'm always calling you guys to do more, to step out and make a difference, and to speak on these things that are wrong, and to fight for our kids. And it can be really exhausting to constantly feel like you're in a pressure cooker, to constantly feel like the negative energy that's coming from the world. And so sometimes it's good to just sit down and read and talk to people that have these uplifting, inspiring stories. It kind of rejuvenates you, it kind of gets you ready to fight some more. So focus on the positive, y'all, and if you have something you're going through that's hard, just remember that you're not the only one. You're not the only one in that situation. You're not the only one going through it. Everybody has hard moments, and so you're not alone. And knowing that, and knowing that there's more to life than all the crap, it really helps you get through. So thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for listening to my stories and our family story. I hope you enjoyed this. And next week, be ready to start talking about all the negative stuff again, but hopefully with a positive spin. And we'll see you next week. Thank you. Have a good night.